Another response video to Joe on the economic stuff. So I'm going to play some of his video. I'll start at 2 minutes in and try not to make this forever, but same old routine. If there's a part two, it'll be on the website. Sorry about that, but it's just, this is sort of important, and even doing these videos is making it clear for myself. So even if that's all that I get out of it, is the fact that talking through this stuff out loud sort of does force me to make it more and more concise in my own brain and come up with answers to the little leftover questions.
About interest on surplus and the fact that the unions, because I defended the unions, taking their savings and pension plans and getting a return on that. And the key to me is this: okay, the labor has already been expended on whatever was produced by the union. Okay. It's the
yeah, they were already paid. They were paid money. Why are they entitled to earn more money on the money? And so this really is the important question. This interest thing. The more you look at it, and the more that you see the insidious ways it works its way through the economy, you sort of get it. Theoretically, let's just say I inherit $2 million. I could get $80,000 a year off that $2 million if I had bought a bond, a U.S. bond at 4% interest, let's say. So I could live off $40,000. It's tax-free money too, I think, right? All the money you make on a U.S. bond is tax-free. So I could live off half of it. I could put half of it into more, as a hedge against any inflation that might exist. So my annuity would just keep growing. I would keep living, and I'd be obligated to do no work for my entire life. And if I had one child, I could give him the annuity, and he could do no work for his entire life, and so on and so on and so on. And if I make enough money, and I'm not too extravagant in my lifestyle, theoretically I could grow that money, and then I could have 2 children, and I could afford to give each one of them an annuity through my lifetime. And then they could do the same thing with their annuity and double it, and then double it. And so what happens to your economy after a while? How much money is being made on annuities, let's call them, and assets, and how much money is being made on work? And so we don't have those numbers, and I suppose I could try to calculate them by some means. I mean, we could look at the U.S. bonds, and we could figure out how much of it's held by foreigners and how much of it's held domestically, and then we could figure out how much return dollars they're getting off that, and how many working hours it would take to generate that income, and we could figure out how many man hours. But we know that interest has to be paid out of somebody's productive work. Some productive worker has to do something of value, create stuff, and that interest has to be paid out of that stuff somewhere. It just doesn't get paid out of nothing. It has to be paid out of productivity. And not to realize that's insidious on its face, that there's something fundamentally wrong with the idea that ownership entitles you not to have to work, is really, you should be able to get it. And you should be able to get, at least I should be able to explain, that it is the proportions. It is the fact that you could figure it out. If you lived on an island and there was just 2 of these people, okay, no problem, right? If there's 100 of you, there's only 2 of these people living off money. But what if it's the other way around? What if you're on an island and 90% of the people are demanding an income, interest, and there's only 2 of you to do the work? And so every bit of work you do has to finance salary on top of salary. You have to get like 10 salaries, each one of you, to finance all the income these annuity holders are expecting from you, demanding from you. And that's another point I wanted to make to Nick. He said something about how, well, if a business doesn't let people go, it has to go out of business. No. What happens is that it won't have the money to pay the owners. That's the problem. It doesn't go bankrupt. It doesn't lose its capacity to do productive work. No, the owners demand more. They demand their payment. And if they don't get their payment, the business will be ruined because they'll withdraw their equity. So it's not a matter of the business failing if they don't fire people. It's a matter that the business won't be able to generate the profit for the owner. But anyway, let's continue with Joe here.
Award for the labor wages that has gotten, saved out of the wages and accumulated, which is what they do, right? And then, whether it's in the hands of the union or the hands of the union member, that really doesn't make any difference.
I wasn't complaining whether it was in the hands of the union or the hands of the union. The point is that it is now being acquired as surplus, and theoretically, that money could be turned into an annuity that just pays people not to work, as long as they don't destroy it. It's a pension fund, so it's supposed to be destroyed. But as an annuity, it could essentially, if you allow it to get big enough, could just create a circumstance where people no longer have to work.
That is the part of their work that they have as cash, as some monetary thingy, and if somebody's going to use that money, and it becomes a question of whether are we talking about completely doing away with capitalism, the ownership of capital? Because if we're not,
yeah, I think I've kind of made it clear that that's what I'm talking about. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Capitalism is crap. It's garbage. Ownership goes too far, and it's gone too far. The rich have gotten too rich. There's too many capitalists versus workers, and the workers are now getting 1/3 or 1/25 or 1/15 of the value of their labor because they have to pay so many capitalists their annuity income, and that's the problem with the economy.
and I'm not, then we need to be talking about what's wrong with somebody renting out real capital that they themselves have earned.
Well, again, they themselves have earned, so at least you're willing to negotiate on the subject of this legacy thing. The idea that I have an annuity, okay, and I'm allowed to pass my annuity on to my children. So I can freeload for my entire life, and then my child can freeload for its entire life. So at least you see some disconnect there, that somebody should earn the money, and the person who earns the money should live off the money. So there should be at least some obligation to do the savings thing first, and not perpetuate. Once the annuity has been created, it shouldn't be perpetual. So maybe we can agree on that no annuity, no ownership should be perpetual. Because that's inherently going to destroy an economy, because there'll be one annuity, then there'll be another annuity, and the annuity population will grow faster than the productive workers can produce profit for them to take.
I'm just saying, I don't have a problem with that. I don't see what's wrong with that. Like I said, the labor has already been expended. It's in the product that got sold.
That has nothing to do with it. Like I said, the employee got paid cash, currency, okay, for their productive work. They got their percentage of the value of their productive work, and their percentage in some industries could be very low compared to their actual productivity, especially if you live in China, where you're very productive and you get a tiny, minuscule piece of that productivity. But regardless, it doesn't matter. You got your reward for your effort. What we're talking about now is what kind of reward you should get for merely owning. And there's a pragmatic, practical reality here. Most people are not in a position where they can afford to generate an annuity, create an annuity. They have to live off their income. Where other people who have the annuity can be creating so much value that they're going to have even more money than they can live on, and so their annuity will just keep growing.
Sold for a price that included the wages that guy. So there's no excess surplus being gained on anything really in that.
Well, I think it's just silly. Like I said, can't you understand it? I mean, once the annuity is established, if there's nothing to take it away, it will exist perpetually and create a dead worker, a consumer and not a producer, something that's just automatically consumes and never is obligated to produce. And that is called a parasite.
Case. And I want to contrast that, by the way, with the banks, who don't have the money when you walk in and create